Welcome to Flipping Houses for Rookies, the only podcast that shows you how to take back your financial freedom and live the American dream by becoming a real estate investor. Without the banks, without the big wigs, and without the realtors' nonsense. This isn't about selling you coaching or some get-rich-quick scheme. It's about opening your eyes to the possibilities so you can make real chunks of dough, buy your life back, and become a free American. With over 400 episodes aired, we're delivering everything you need to know to find deals, talk to sellers, structure deals, and win big. It's time to take action, change your mindset, and claim what's yours. Real estate is the key to your freedom, and we're here to show you the way. Subscribe now and catch our latest episodes on YouTube at Flipping Houses for Rookies, because your financial freedom starts today. Now, here are your hosts, Bill and Pete.
Uh-oh. Here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. Good morning, Peter.
Hello, Bill, and hello, every person.
My senior rookie that is no longer a rookie, but is acting like a rookie.
Oh, good. You give and you take away.
There you go. So we're at podcast number 455. The title of today's podcast is Secret Creative Real Estate Deal Slot Revealed and Fully Explained. Here's the description. Exposed the forbidden real estate strategy that the real estate industry, like realtors, bankers, and gurus, don't want you to discover. Why? Because they teach how to drain thousands out of your bank accounts, or credit cards for down payments and or courses, maybe even coaching to make money in real estate. And none of this crap shows you how to make a 5-figure paycheck within the next 30 days with only a few hours work. And less than $100 without debt or payments looming over your credit or you. In fact, this simple risk-free strategy is not a someday down the road after days, weeks, months, or even years studying. In the next 60 minutes, we're going to give you the complete blueprint right here, just by listening to this episode, including leads, deals, and cash in a step-by-step manner. But my fair warning is, once you see how simple this is, you'll never look at real estate and how to make money in the same way again. Right?
Good.
This is a battle-tested process that has made many before you a boatload of money. So make sure you stick around and don't miss it. Wow.
Yeah. So that's some newfangled thing you just thought up yesterday, right?
No, just the descriptions.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do some housekeeping. So we would like it if you subscribe to us, wherever you're listening to us or watching us. Make sure you leave us a review if you would. If you leave us a 5-star review and you want to take a picture of it and send it to Flipping Houses for Rookies @gmail.com, I'll send you some free courses that I've sold for hundreds of dollars in the past. And it would be for your time of actually doing that, because it'll take you a few minutes to do that, right? Also, I have released my new book. You can find it on Amazon. It's called Leads, Deals, Cash, Creative Real Estate Operator's Manual. If you just go on to Amazon, I have 6 or 7 books there. Just type in William Hawthorne, no E at the end of Hawthorne. William Hawthorne, you will find all the books. Also, if you go to, I have a free newsletter that I've just launched about a month or 2 ago, and it's all about deal structuring and all the inside workings. I deliver that every Saturday morning around 7 a.m. Eastern Time, and it's for free. So if you go to Creative Real Estate Dealology newsletter.com, I always get that wrong.
That sounded right. Creative Real Estate Dealology. That sounded right.
That's right. Creative Real Estate Dealology.com/subscribe. You will get it. You will get the newsletter for free. There's no. And every Saturday morning, I will send you an issue that has all kinds of stuff that I don't usually talk about anywhere else. I talk about some of it in my book, but that's it. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then I had talked about episode number 450. We were going to change the platform. I'm still working on that. The platform was Hiro, HIRO.FM or .com. I don't remember which one it is. I'm still working on that, but I've been just too busy with everything else, and I haven't gotten around to it. So that's all that's going on. So make sure you do all that. And if you have any questions and need to contact us, you can go to flippinghousesforrookies@gmail.com. All right, enough of that crap, huh? Here we go.
It's good crap.
Yeah. So, Pete,
yes?
Is it fair to say if 95% of the people in America don't know something, is it considered a secret?
Unintentionally, but yeah. You don't know it. You don't know it.
Of course it's a secret, right?
Hmm.
And that's what we're going to talk about today. It's the most obvious secret in America. But you know who know it really good?
Who?
Politicians.
Oh, yeah. Okay. You want to hear funny? I was going to tell you this later. You know who doesn't know this?
Our buyers and sellers.
No. Yeah. No. Worse. We have a buyer, and his lawyer said, not a good idea. When I talked to him, he wasn't a real estate lawyer, and he didn't know what it was.
Yep.
Come on. He's supposed to be a smart person. He goes, no, I don't know. Looks complicated. He's a lawyer, no real estate.
I
How
told
silly.
you the 2 top people that have killed my deals have been realtors and lawyers. That's because we're in a judicial state. So Connecticut has every socialistic possible rule there could be implemented. It's probably it's as bad, if not worse, than California, and we don't even get the fame of it.
Or the beaches. Damn it.
Yeah. We also don't get the fires, too. So, all right. So today we're going to reveal the most obvious secret in real estate, the quickest and easiest way for you to succeed in getting a 5-figure paycheck for only a few hours of your time.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, if you've been looking for a simple way to get highly profitable real estate transactions without risk in your spare time, this single podcast episode is the answer to your dreams. But you got to listen to the end. Sorry. Plus, you simply will not believe the actual possibilities it will bring to your financial future with something you already know about 90% what to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is the part that floors me, Peter.
Yeah.
When I dissect this and I take it apart, there's a bunch of fancy words for this which we won't use. But when I take it apart,
mm-hmm.
right, and I think it's called sundering, right? When you pull things apart.
Sunder. Oh,
yeah,
I don't know.
When you pull things apart, sundering, you pull things apart,
yeah,
and you inspect them for their own individual pieces, right? It's called in England brick and brack. You look at all the pieces that add up to a whole. You know, there's a whole bunch of philosophy names for this, right?
Yeah.
But when I do this, people are like, "Oh my God, I didn't know you could do that." Right?
Well, you know what's weird to me? I'm an educator. People seem to think that if it's good, it has to be hard. And it's not.
Right.
The best things in the world are the things that are just simple and kind of overlooked. It can't be that easy. And then it is.
And then when I pull it apart, they're like, I could do that. I've done that before.
Yeah.
You've done 90% of it, and today I'm going to show the other 10%. The 10% is how to make money with it.
Okay, the good part.
Yeah. And once we reveal that last 10%, you'll explode with excitement and enthusiasm. It happens every time. So much so that it could explode your income so much you may consider after doing this for a month or two and being successful, consider quitting or ditching your current revenue stream in the near future and live the life of your dreams. Now, I'm not telling you you're going to be on a beach with a cocktail, with passive income. No, this strategy is it's you work. Remember when you read Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, the 4 quadrants?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember them?
Sure.
Okay, what are they?
Well, this is like the 4 different ways you can make money. One is you're employed somewhere. You got a job on the hour. The second way is have a little business where it's yours, but you're still kind of working. The third one is you have a business where the business kind of works and you can step away from it and the thing keeps functioning. You could be the boss of the president, but you can leave. You can go back, but you don't have to be there every day. And the fourth one is when you're a big fat rich cat, you just invest your money and live on the interest or whatever comes back.
Good job, Peter. So we're going to go from the first to the second. So this is, you're going to get a small business. You're going to have to work, but instead of working 40 hours a week, maybe you work 40 hours a month.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So as I said, something is not commonly known by 95% of America is considered a secret. Plus, and this is something that is, I almost think I want to put this on my tombstone if I had one. I'm going to be cremated, so I'm not going to have one. But I almost would think I think about that a couple times, right?
Yeah.
Some of my statements or some of my core beliefs, right?
Yeah.
This is the one. One great idea can change your life forever.
That's a good one.
One great idea can change your life forever. It has mine. I could scan back in my 61 years, and I can tell you those times. Now, we get a lot of ideas. We all have a lot of ideas. We're all very creative. We all have an imagination. But that great idea is the one that solves the most problems for the most amount of parts of your life, the most amount of dynamics in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the greatest number of people and the greatest number of your dynamics in life, it solves. Dynamics are things like, you, yourself, your family, your businesses, your city, your animals and your plants and all the things in your house. It's like, it's not just about you and what you think. I mean, it's your whole environment.
Sure.
You spiritually and, your religion, all of it. Right? It just really, it spans across all of it and it elevates it all. Because that's a grand idea. That's a great idea that can change your life.
Yep.
And I will say very boldly and very arrogantly, I'm good at being arrogant, it's no accident you're here right now and actually paying attention to what we're saying. It's not an accident.
Bill, I can remember the day I had my idea, and I won't go into it, but like, honey, we need to do blah, 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 something or other. And then in a week or two later, I was there, and a week or two later, I was here with you.
Yeah.
It was within weeks. Like, we need to do blah, something. And everything's changed since then.
See?
Yeah, it was just a decision. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
You don't have to know what it is. You have to just kind of make a decision. You find the idea.
Follow your gut. Yeah. See, I do that. So I could, because I've been to all kinds of seminars, and I've been in, we'll say business sessions. You know what I mean? Where they go in, and I've had business therapy and evaluations. And one of the things that I have, by some people, I'm noted and cherished for, and others I'm reckless for. And And my thing is I don't research a lot of things. I have to sneeze. I don't research a lot. I get enough data, and I follow my gut instinct.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I just plunge in. What I've changed recently is not the plunging part, but how long I go before I try to prove the concept. Used to be I would go years.
Really?
Now I go months. And if it doesn't evolve or produce, I abandon it and I get another idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because anybody that knows me, I'm not short of ideas. That's that's not something I do. All right. So anyway, so because the secret is so obvious, but unfortunately it is used in every other industry and not in real estate. This concept that I'm talking about, this secret that I'm talking about, this obvious mindset, this idea that will change your life is used in a lot of other industries, but not real estate until now. All right?
Okay.
And that obvious secret is you must test before you invest.
Ah.
See, I don't know why we don't do that, why we don't preach that, why we don't. It's the most easiest thing to do in this industry, right? So, in other industries, like the stock market, they do that all the time. Before you become a stock person, buying and selling, any course you take, any book you read, which I've not read and done a lot of courses, but I know people that have, they do dry trading.
Mm-hmm.
Dry trading means you pick some stocks, you write the numbers down, you put them on a piece of paper in a notebook, however you want to do it, on a spreadsheet, whatever, and you monitor them for days to see if they are going to elevate or decrease. When they decrease, you say, oh man, I'm glad I didn't do that. And when they elevate, you're like, shit, I wish I did that.
Yep.
But there was a chance for you to watch the activity, sit on the sidelines and see, is this safe?
Yeah.
You tested before you invested. Any good marketer, number two, any good marketer, any good marketing agent will start with a headline or some ad. And I mean, I'm not talking about the agencies like on TV. Like, it's the most craziest thing in the world to me. I watch car commercials, and I wish I could have $1 for every time I've seen a car commercial. They suck so bad. How many commercials have you watched? You get to the end, and you're like, "What the hell was that commercial?" Right?
Oh, I didn't even know what it's about. Like, what am I supposed to buy?
So the point is there's no call to action, and there's no point to the call to action, right? But I could talk for days on that topic, and I don't want to get deterred here or distracted. The point is that the way marketing starts, especially in direct marketing, I'll spend a few $100s to test a headline, then I'll spend $500, and then I'll spend $1,000, and then a couple thousand, and then I turn it into $5,000. And once I hit $5,000, if the percentages stay the same on the marketing responses, then it rolls out into 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000. But they test before they invest.
Yep.
Right? How about this one, Peter?
Well,
Did you test your wife before she became your wife?
I don't know, Bill. I woke up one morning and I was at the altar. It was really scary. I didn't even know who this person was, and I was married. Just like that. It was terrible.
That's not true.
Well, so you mean the dating part first?
Yeah. I mean,
oh, sure. Wait a minute. The dating part, the breaking up part, the get back together part, the dating some more, the the engagement.
That's what I mean.
Wait a minute. Yeah. Okay.
Your relationships, all your relationships, other than your family relationships, and even then you've tested those because through life you just don't know it. But any relationship you have, you tested it before you invested anything into it. Yeah. Right. You're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to go out with my. Well, let's put it this way. My daughter called me last night, and she said to me, Max, my 7-year-old, is going to get a black belt. He got elevated to the black belt, right? He's 7 years old. So we're going away and blah, blah, blah. She said, Friday, whatever date it is his ceremony. Are you coming? I'm like, that's the night I go out to dinner with my buddies and smoke cigars. Now, I would do anything for my grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
But I've invested in these relationships. I mean, it's a good place for me to go and just kind of unwind. Not that I'm wound up anyways, but you see what I'm saying? So I've tested these relationships and I've invested in them, and I know they're good relationships. Even though sometimes I can't stand either one of them. And even though we argue about shit that we shouldn't argue about, right? It happens, right? Anyways. How about when you buy a car? You just go in and say, I'll take that car? Or do you text it first?
They're trying to do that now, like commercials. Just click here and buy it. Like, no, I won't even buy a pair of shoes online. I want to see if they fit. Walk around in them.
Right. That's a good one. Do you buy? I was trying to think of a fifth one. That's a good one, Peter. Do you buy shoes without testing them?
No. Shirts, maybe. Pants, no, I don't think so. The shoes, absolutely. Mary just bought 2 or 3 pairs of shoes. Blah 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 blah. She's bringing them back. Let's just go to the store and try them out when we're there. You know?
Make sure they fit. The idea. I think you got the idea. One idea could change your life.
Yeah.
The idea is if you're afraid of losing money, which you should be, so I don't even think people are afraid of losing money. I don't even think that's what the problem is. I think the problem is you get locked into a piece of property and can't get rid of it, and it's continuous money, month after month after month after month, and it's endless. If you could say to somebody, you know what, buy this piece of property, and all you're going to risk is $5,000. If you lose $5,000, I buy it back. I did this with both my daughters, and I bought one of the houses back.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I told her, if you lose money, you tell your husband, if you lose money and you don't want the property, I'll buy it back. And my son-in-law says, so what's he doing? Just using my money and taking? And I'm like, Josh, they had it 5 years, lost $31,000, and I paid them back. Okay. So if you could just have a delineated amount, a marked amount, it wouldn't be so bad. It's the unpredicted number that scares most people.
Sure. But
we don't do this in real estate. We don't do this test before you invest in real estate. Nobody talks about it. And today, in an information inflation world, people talk about having inflation with money. We have inflation with information. Our information's way overinflated, right? Where people are overloaded with information, but starving for wisdom. Right? And I'm going to share that wisdom in full with you today. Now, let's just clarify. Wisdom is knowledge with experience. That's what the difference is between information and wisdom. Information is just, that logically makes sense. Bullshit. Most information is emotional. It feels good. Because
you hope it works. Hey, let's do that. That should work. I sure hope so. How much?
Logic. That's why I get a kick out of these politicians. This is scientific. Oh, really? Why don't you show us the results? Why don't you show us the test? Why don't you show us how you came up with this?
Yeah.
Right? Scientific means that there is proof or evidence that could be provided. And
it should be replicatable. You can replicate it. You're okay? What?
Something happened.
Okay, now? Can you hear me? No. I wonder if I have you don't hear it? Can you hear me through the laptop?
Peter just went dead. His mic got muted.
Yeah, I'm not muted here.
Yeah, it was when you crossed your arm. Something with your mic. Is there a switch on that mic or something?
No, it's a lapel. The lapel you got me. But it should be going through the laptop.
Unplug the headset to see if I can hear you.
that better?
Not now. You're muted.
How's that?
Oh, okay, yeah. It's a little bit of an echo, but let's do it. Try plugging them in one time real quick, and then let's see what happens.
Yeah. Yep. Boy, this never happens.
Yeah, it's when you cross your arms.
How's it now?
There you go. I think you probably just pulled the plug out just a little bit when you yanked on the cord.
Okay. Sorry, folks.
So, in fact, getting back to the podcast, I'm willing to bet if you could invest about 30 minutes a day, within the next 30 days, you could possibly be holding a 5-figure paycheck. Now, I'm a little bit loose with that promise because of you, the listener, because, man, you guys can come up with some stories, some plausible excuses of why you don't do this. And they are unbelievable. Here's how it works. And you'll get paid handsomely. First thing. This is on the backside of my tombstone.
That's a good idea, right on both sides. What a good idea.
The bullet points on the backside of my tombstone.
Hey, see, now there's a great idea. Double your message, use both sides.
Yeah,
God.
I don't like white paper.
You get them coming and going. That's great, Bill.
First, sellers do not make you rich. Or pay you profit. The buyer does. There's no skating around this obvious fact.
Mm-hmm.
The statement is you make money when you buy, you collect it when you sell.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reason why the flipping business and the fix and flip business is so wonderful. I'm going to tell you, the only way to make money is to have a valuable, final, or finished product.
Mm.
It's the only way to make money.
Yep.
There's no other way to make money,
mm-hmm.
right? So if you have if you're selling bottled water, you have to have bottled water finished and ready to be shipped or sent to the buyer. But here's the thing, it's got to be valuable. So are you going to sell bottled water to fish? No. But are you going to sell bottled water to that guy that's been on the desert for 3 days and hasn't had water and don't know where to get it?
Hell yeah.
Right? So value is how you make money.
Mm.
But in order for your buyer to find you and pay you, there needs to be some way to attract them to get their money. Right? You understand?
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the first rules in money. Like, attract attention. If nobody sees you,
right,
you have to attract the buyer. Yeah, of course.
And once they have examined what you have to offer them, they get excited and they say yes. And then they pay you, your seller, and any other promises you made in the deal. But you have to have a deal first, which is why we spend so much time working on sellers and never think about the buyers. This is the reason why creative real estate investors or real estate investors, point blank, wholesalers, for example, are broke.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
They don't have enough deals to present. This is like going into Macy's and buying a dress for your wife and all the racks are empty.
Yeah. Or
this is like going into a convenience store looking for a can of soda and the cooler's empty. You'll never go back there again. Or if you go back, I can tell you where this happens. I shouldn't say this, but the smoke shop I go to, sometimes you go there, there's no cigars. Sometimes you go there and there's tons of cigars.
That's crazy.
Pretty much. But you never know.
Huh.
And it's unreliable.
Wow.
In other words, you need to supply the buyer with what's needed and wanted. Where have we heard this before? So we say the formula for a seller to get deals is to find and communicate to a motivated seller. Tell them what you do. I do lease options. And then find out what's needed and wanted, and then give it to them. So we never talk about the other side of the formula. How do you know what to give them? Right? And I always say, well, my 7 strategies will plug in what you can do, right? But it's wrong. That's a wrong statement. Because after you have done a couple deals and you have tested before invested the market and tested your buyers and find out what they need and want, you can now make deals with your sellers a shit ton easier. Because you know what they're willing to do or not to do. Like, here's a perfect example. I got a $300,000 house and I want a $50,000 down payment. And I'll do owner financing. Well, there's 2 things you got to look at there. Either you got to look at, okay, which that deal will work, by the way.
Yeah.
The way I'm going to tell you how that deal will work is if your payments with the seller is low enough that you can afford to pay a private lender the money on the $50,000 and pay the seller his payment and make a profit, it will work.
Exactly.
But most of the time it won't, because they want everything. They want $50,000 and they want a high payment. Right? So the point that I'm trying to make is that if you know that your seller will not give you $50,000, or it's not likely, or give you $50,000 and allow you to make money.
What, the buyer?
No.
Or the seller?
If you're talking to the seller and your buyer won't give you $50,000, you could tell the seller, no.
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way. Right? It makes a whole different scenario with you talking to a seller. Now check this out. This is the most amazing thing, and I can't believe I went so many decades and never thought of this.
Really?
Because I've never heard anybody talk about this. And if you go to Amazon, I'm not trying to sell my book because I don't need to sell my book. My book is to help people, so I don't have to keep preaching on podcasts and emails. It's all in one spot. It's a couple hundred pages. It's all in one spot. It's called Leads, Deals, Cash, Creative Real Estate Operator's Manual. And then underneath that, it says brand new and released today, how to retire early with leads, deals, and cash booster blueprint. It's all in the book on how to do this. But more importantly, if you don't test before you invest, and you don't understand how your market is, and you don't understand what the buyer is going to do, you have an absolute blind spot. You're like a horse with the blinders on. Yeah. You're just trying to win a race by beating somebody else. And that doesn't work. Used to, but not anymore. Right? Now, check this out. And this is the most obvious secret, and I can't believe it's so unbelievable. It's not a secret. It's so obvious that you don't see it. Yeah. Realtors have been doing this exact deal structure for almost 100 years. They've been doing this exact process for almost 100 years.
That's interesting. I thought they didn't do it or didn't like it, but they
That's what
will.
The problem is. That's why because we think that because the realtors bash us. Oh, you do that alternative real estate. No. Yeah. F you, mother effer. Because they've only been around since the 50s, organized. They were around in the early 1900s, but they were considered charlatans. They were considered snake oil people until they wrote a and this is not easy to find information because they don't want you to find this. Because do you know who the third largest lobbyists are in the government?
Oh, the realtors, the National Association.
Third, they might be fifth, but they're
really up there.
One of the largest lobbyists in the country.
Wow.
Why do you think that lawsuit went so well?
How come there's no other ones in other states?
Yeah.
That was one state.
the point is that they've been doing this for 100 years, and they want to prove to everybody that they're the only system. They actually have a monopoly. They want to prove to everybody that that they are the only system to sell a house. Right? I beg anyone on this podcast to do one of two things. One, look before 1950 and ask, how did we buy and sell houses? And if you think that realtors have been around since the 1910 era, which is when the word first came about, I beg you to look before 1910 and ask, how did we buy and sell houses then, or property then?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, those are days we didn't need permission to do things. Like to build something onto our house, to build, just to do stuff. You can't light a damn fire on the beach anymore. Can't do this, can't do that. But there's plenty of things we can do. This is our home, somebody's house. Somebody can buy it, somebody can sell it. We can do things amongst ourselves. Why not?
Not to get distracted because we're a little bit behind, but I just finished watching Hell on Wheels, that series. It's a 5 series. Oh my God, what an amazing! It was entertaining.
I want to watch that. What network is it on? Is it Netflix?
I found it. No, I found it on Prime. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I found it. I think I found it in. I don't know, Peter. I'll have to go look.
Yeah, I was looking for it the other day because I heard you was good.
Because I think I found it in Paramount because my daughter gave me subscriptions to that stuff. And then I watched the first series, and then it said I had to pay, and I just Googled it, and I found, I think, Free Zone or one of those free apps, and I found it has ads on it, but my point is this: 1876, they're doing with the railroad, they're doing eminent domain and buying and selling real estate the way we're talking about right now on TV. Now I know it's Hollywood, but it's right there. Just watch it. Yeah, really? 1876
with like leases.
Yeah, all kinds of shit like that. Just weird shit.
Yeah, make it up as you go.
All right, so the point is that the realtor makes these agreements, right? So what they do is they get a listing agreement. This allows them to get control over the property for nothing, no deposit, no anything. They get They get control over the property. They put it on the internet. It used to be their multiple listing service, which they've imploded that since because now it's everywhere. And what are they doing? They're attracting a buyer to come and make their offer. How many times have you heard the realtor say, oh, well, we got to drop the price by $10,000 because the buyer, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
It's monitored by who will open their wallet up and give you your money. The money is not with the seller. Profit is, but not the money. And the money only counts, the profit only counts if somebody will pay you. This, by the way, and this is in my book. I'm telling you, I'm very proud of this book. There will be offbeats to it. I think I want to write a book on negotiating for creative real estate. I have to survey and see if people want to do that. But this, by the way, is what I call the FREP system. FREP. Okay, and that's flipping real estate property. This is what most people think real estate is all about. These are like wholesale transactions, right? And realtor transactions, right? What they do is they focus on the property condition and location, which is what reflects how much it's worth. And how to get the funds for the buyer to close the deal and pay everything and everyone. Right? Now, here's the trick here. The suppressive or oppressive banker is the one that's controlling this because when they lend money, they want collateral. So the banker is controlling the industry. Now, I have a very disdain viewpoint of bankers. After I read the book twice and then watched on YouTube. And by the way, the President of the United States just talked about the other day. I don't know if he did it intentionally or not. But the creature from Jekyll Island. And there's a whole bunch of stuff about this tariff stuff, like it or not. I'm going to tell you, if you go back in history from the early mid-1800s, like 1860 or something like that, to 1913, there was no income tax because of tariffs.
No income tax. Say that again. There was no income tax.
No IRS, no income tax, nothing. And in
Right.
1913, the bankers, there's 12 of them, the bankers and the politicians and the lobbyists changed it so that they could print money in a Federal Reserve, which is not federally owned, it's owned by the bankers. And for 100 and something years, we think that the money is controlled by the government. It's not, it's controlled by the bankers. It's a scam. Our money is a scam. And until you read that book, that documentary, The Creature from Jekyll Island, or watch the video, there's videos, just go on YouTube and watch the videos with the author. He's still alive, right? And his investigation, you will realize there's things like page 38 of your loan documents is where the bank sends the money into the Federal Reserve and they give you 10 times what the value of the loan is. So if you have a $100,000 mortgage, the federal government gives the bank $1 million. So how do they foreclose on you if they got $1 million? Right?
Yeah.
So this is why I have disdain for the banker. It's not because I have like some personal vendetta. No, it's and President Trump just said that I don't know why, and if he did this intentionally, I don't know why, but in 1913 the tariffs stopped.
Oh God.
And that's when so The Creature from Jekyll Island was done in 1910. And they put it in law in 1913. Anyways, I'm diverted. So just realize this, okay? So the bankers set the rules. They're the ones that set the FREP system, flipping real estate property, by putting value on it and saying, well, I'll lend this much because of the value of it. So they set the pace, right? But over here in creative real estate, we don't put up with that crap. Screw you, Mr. Banker. We don't need your lazy ass criminal son of a bitch. We don't need you, right? We use the FRED system, flipping real estate documents, right? So we call it frepping it. Right? You're going to frep it. Instead, we use, fretting it. Forget about
fretting it.
Right? We don't frep it, we fret it. Right?
Yeah.
Instead, we use the FRED system, and the FRED system just means flipping real estate documents. So in other words, all these documents control the property. Things like deeds and lease options and land contracts and wraparound mortgages. All these reuse the money that's already in the deal and just control the property. And we do this with an option agreement. Right? Realize wealthy people don't own anything but control everything. For liability reasons.
Yeah.
I'm finding that out right now with a lawsuit that I have. Right? When you own things, you get attacked. The more you own, the more tax you get. So if you don't own anything but control everything and get paid for it, you're a hero. You're wealthy.
Yeah.
Right? Definition of wealth is money without liability. Imagine if you could make $500 a week. Does that excite you? Okay. What if I told you could make $500 a week and you had no bills?
That's a better scenario. So it's a comparison. That's a better scenario.
You don't have to buy food. You don't have to buy groceries. You don't have to earn nothing. You just get $500 a week to do whatever you want. It's a whole different story. Most people could live off of $2,000 a month if they had no bills.
Sure. That's just free money to do whatever you feel like.
So we do all of this with an option agreement, right? And an option agreement means that you have the right to buy and not the obligation to buy. Right? So, and this is done every day in the stock market. Options came from the stock market or vice versa. I don't know which one came first, but they use options all the time, right?
Yep.
And now we're full circle. You sign an option agreement with the seller, and and you get 90 days to sell it, just like the realtor does with a listing contract. Instead, we're using an option agreement, right? And we're getting the house on consignment so that we could go test the market and the buyer to see if this house will attract them. This is how you test before you invest. As you get non-obligatory agreements with your sellers, give them whatever they want. Don't even negotiate with them. Just give them what they want and say, well, let's go see what the market does. And you put it on the market and see what the buyers do. right? Now, this is all about getting a 5% discount, which is what the seller would get from a realtor anyways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they get a 5% discount, right? And this is how you get a 5-figure paycheck. Because a 5% discount on a $300,000 house is $15,000.
Sure.
$200,000 house, it's $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
On a $100,000 house, it's $5,000. Okay.
Sure.
Now, if you go to podcast number 448 and 450, our podcast, Flipping Houses for Rookies, podcast number 448 and 450, you can get the blueprint for how to do all this, right?
Yeah.
But there's an easier way. It is called a slot deal. A slot deal stands for sandwich lease option transaction, right? And what that means is that we are going to manage the transaction, but not stay in it, just like a realtor, right?
Mm-hmm.
In closer terms, this is wholesaling lease options on pretty houses to the end user. The end user is the person that's going to live in it and benefit from it. Instead of trying to wholesale ugly houses to investors, which is a needle in a haystack, right?
Mm.
With deep discounts, we're going to pay sellers full price and go find a buyer that wants to pay monthly and not have to get a mortgage. Right? Now, here's the trick. Because the buyer's getting time to pay, right? You can agree with your seller to pay full market value for the property because you're not going to pay it. The buyer's going to pay it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can elevate your price, your selling price by 5%, right, of the market value. And that 5% becomes your profit for doing this transaction. And the seller likes it because they get full price, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the buyer likes it because they're not worried about 5% because they don't have to get a bank loan and have their inside turned out and give over their firstborn and all that kind of stuff to the criminal banker.
Yep.
For a loan that he already got paid 10 times the amount that he lended you on. Right? Which means our first benefit to the seller was paying the full market price because they can't get that anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And our second benefit is they keep all the money because we are going to keep the 5% deposit that the buyer gave us. So in other words, the buyer is paying us our profit, not the seller, like in the realtor system.
Sure.
Right? Okay, so far I think I've delivered on my one great idea to change your life forever.
Mm-hmm.
Test while you invest, and just a couple of the things that I added to it. I think I've delivered on that, right? Acting like a realtor, representing property for a 5% profit without a license by using an option agreement. I think I've delivered on that, right?
Sure.
But this is not enough for fast and easy success doing these slot deals. Only because it could act like a needle in a haystack trying to find these deals that the seller is willing to lease for 2 or 3 years and get paid down the road. They don't want to do that. They want to get paid now. They never heard of this. This is the secret that most don't know. So we have to use our Grand Slam offer strategy so the seller feels foolish saying no to the offer. We had to flip the charts, right?
Yep.
In other words, our ethical bribe, because that's what we're doing, is we're ethically bribing the seller for the seller to wait 36 months, which is 3 years, to get paid off. And we do this by promising the seller 35% over market value. So that means a $300,000 house, they get $394 over 3 years. So they get $94,000 for waiting. A $400,000 house, they get $540,000. They get $140,000 for waiting for 3 months. 36 months.
Well, there has to be a benefit to waiting,
Right.
and there's several. There's a lot of benefit. You look at the whole picture, which
So
you're
we're
showing. Yeah, we're showing. And this is amazing.
Because if you don't do that, then if you don't give them these benefits, right? Like you say, it doesn't work. So
well, you said value before, right?
yeah, there you go.
This is the value. If you can wait 30, look at all the value benefits. Call it either one, but you show them all these. Like you got to show us. It's a great value to them.
It took me 30 years to figure this out, Peter, and I just recently figured this out. Would you believe that? Our valuable final product is bringing a buyer to the seller that perfectly fits their situation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it seems so simple, but if they want to wait 6 months to close, we'll bring them a buyer that will do that. If they want market value and not pay any fees, we'll bring them a buyer to do that. If they want to make more money on the property because they can and make an extra 35%, we'll do that. If they want to sell quick and willing to give a discount, we'll bring all the cash.
Yeah.
Our valuable final product is bringing the perfect buyer for the perfect situation for the seller. Right? All right.
That'd be good.
So before everybody gets their panties in a knot here and like this whole 35% thing, like, how are you going to do that, Bill? How are we going to make money? Let's go over it, okay? So
yeah.
The seller's going to receive these benefits. There's 6 of them that I'm going to talk about within the 36 months. And I'm going to try to do this quick because we're a little bit late into the podcast. So the first thing is there's no 12 to 15% closing cost. Right? There's not the 5% for the realtor. There's no 3% for negotiating. There's no 3% repair bribery. In other words, they say that the buyer gets an inspection and they find all these zoning things and they come up with these bullshit repairs and you got to either fix them or give money back. Well, that's 3%, and you're not going to pay the 3% closing costs, right? So this gets hung up. We could do a whole podcast on this because people are like, well, what happens in 3 years from now? Isn't there closing cost then? Yeah, the closing cost runs between 1% and 2%. And that's usually for conveyance tax, and that's usually for their own legal counsel. Mm-hmm. We're going to eliminate all that other stuff by doing this.
That's good enough.
Right? So number 2, very often monthly cash flow, because the seller owes less than market value or inflation, has higher monthly payments. I can tell you right now, if you want to piss me off, which is hard to do. If you want to piss me off, get on one of my coaching calls and start talking about Rentometer. We do not rent. We're not landlords. We sell buyers the property. We own to rent. So we sell them the property. We say, this is how much you're going to pay. This is what you need for down payment. And here's your monthly payments until you can get your mortgage within the next 36 months. And we will help you do that. The way we help you do that is we actually have you apply for the loan. Once you're in the house, the buyer is in the house, we find out what the dysfunction is or what the problem is or what the colorful past is or whatever it is, and we send you over to our credit repair guy. And then help you over 35 months or 34 months to get qualified for a mortgage.
Yep.
Okay, it's not that hard. Right? So what happens is if the seller owes $200,000 and he's got a $1,200 a month payment or a $1,400 a month payment, and the house is now worth $350,000, you're going to base the payment on a $350,000 mortgage, not at the seller's 3%, but at the new current rate at 6%. So you're going to base the payment on $350,000 at 6%. That alone gives the seller cash flow.
Yep.
They love it. Number 3, the buyer is paying monthly lease payments. So that means what the buyer gets is they get the first right of refusal, in other words, the option agreement. So the seller can't go sell it out from underneath them, but they're paying monthly lease payments, not rent payments, lease payments. Rent is month to month, usually not more than 12 months. Leases are long term; they can go up to 100 years or more.
Yeah.
Right. So a lease payment, they're paying. The lease payment is for the use of the property. There's no principal reduction. So that means every time the buyer pays the seller the lease payment, the seller takes the money and pays their mortgage, and they get more equity or more profit when they cash out. right? So we break that number down and show them how much that is, right? You also get, because you're not living in the house, it's an investment property at this point because you're landlording it, technically, you're going to get depreciation. You can write off depreciation from the government for 27 and a half years. That's 3.6% per year. Mm-hmm. So that means your accountant can write off 3.6%, and then that 3.64% is your tax deduction is based on your taxable income amount. So if your
like your tax bracket.
Yeah. So if your tax bracket is 25%, then that's what you get as a write-off.
And you get to keep that money instead of giving it to the government. So
Right.
keep it in your pocket.
Right off your income. Comes right off.
It's like making money, but you're saving it, so that's good. Good
Most
for me.
houses between $200,000 and $300,000. That's between $12,000 and $15,000 for 3 years. Mm-hmm. Plus, you get appreciation because the seller is going to say to you, "Well, what happens if the house goes up? You know, the prices of real estate are going," and they whine, right? Yeah. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put 0.25% in the option agreement of an increase. So that means on month 2, the house is worth 0.25% more than it was last month. 0.25% is 3% per year.
Yep.
So that means it motivates the buyer to go get a mortgage and not pay more, right? Because they know that it's going up. So it puts an automatic necessity level or motivation factor in the deal. And it allows the seller to pick up 9% over the course of 3 years, because it's 3%.
3.
So they get 9%. So if the house is worth $300,000, that means it's going to be worth $325,000 or $329,000 or whatever that number is at the end of the 3 years. So they didn't waste any. They're not wasting their equity, right? And then the last thing that we don't talk about much because it's kind of hard to explain. It's hard to figure this number. But when the seller pays their mortgage, there's interest payments.
Yes.
At the end of the year, usually in February, the mortgage companies will send you a statement and say, this is how much interest you paid. If you give that, even if you're not renting, even if you own a house and you're just living there, you should give that to your accountant because you could subtract that from your taxes. So I have houses I pay $10,000, $12,000 a year for taxes. You know, you get 10 houses to do that. That's $100,000 in income reduction. Do you see?
Absolutely.
But the seller gets this benefit. So this is how we get the 35% over market value, because they're going to get all these benefits, right? Now let's divert for a second. Let's just say that you're talking to a landlord that already gets these benefits, because I've had a coaching client ask me that. Yeah. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. They're going to get all that benefits and not have the landlord obligations. Right now they're getting those benefits, but they have a liability because, first of all, they have people in the house that they can get sued. They can burn the houses down. They can do all kinds of things. It's a liability. So their money that they're making, in other words, if they're making $200 a door, which is a lot, is not enough for the risk. But if we take the property and do what we're doing, we're putting the risk on the buyer, the way we do our paperwork, and we eliminate that liability for the landlord. They could do this. We actually flip them into becoming the bank, right, and not being the landlord. And that's the benefit to those people that already have properties, right?
Yeah, that could be a lot of money in repairs, because you've had them, we've had them.
Yeah.
You know, if there's a lot of repairs on an older property, you don't have to worry about that.
I got a lawsuit because of a furnace. Somebody tried to light a furnace and they got injured, which they shouldn't have been trying to do it. And it's a frivolous lawsuit, but it cost me $9,600 or $9,700 to put the furnace in, and 4 months worth of lost rent. So far I'm about $14,000 into this thing, and I get no more money. She pays $1,025 a month. I don't get any more out of it. And I sold the property. I'm like, yeah, screw this. That's how I'm getting my money. Otherwise, I can't kick her out. She's paying her rent. I mean, because I'm in Connecticut, right? Anyways, I don't want to get onto that because I'll start bitching up a storm like you wouldn't believe, and you don't want to hear me complaining. Okay, last thing. How do we find these deals? So the easiest thing in the world to do is go on Facebook Marketplace. On the left-hand column, it says for rent.
Mm-hmm.
You could also do this on Zillow. The best place in the world, remember Randy Lynch?
Yeah.
Coaching client? She does this. She is amazing like this. She goes into Facebook and types in buy-sell group and then her city or her state or wherever she wants to do business. And she finds these buy-sell groups where people are buying and selling stuff inside of Facebook.
Mm.
And you get accepted to the group and you will find houses and you'll be able to buy and sell houses in these groups.
Because they're renting them there, but she just sees if they want to do this.
It's a buy-sell group, has nothing to do with rent.
Oh.
And it's just people that are looking for you. They're looking for an alternative other than a realtor.
Wow.
And you just start promoting in there. I buy and sell houses.
Ah.
Or you put your house in there, house for sale, no bank qualifying. Right? It's really easy to do. They're good. If you get a good couple of groups, you can make a lot of money. Right? Now, here's the trick, and this is the danger of this. This is like keeping a bottle of whiskey in the closet with an alcoholic in the house.
Okay.
It's just not, it's tempting for most people. And if you could get past this temptation, I promise you will make money. Do not look at the houses. When you go on to these properties, don't look at the properties. When you're on Zillow, when you're on Facebook, don't look at the properties. You're looking for motivated sellers. So just go on there and message them this. Will you consider renting for a year or two and then sell to me? Don't look at the houses. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute. If you copy and paste that and did this for 10 minutes a day, copied and paste 25 people a day, or 25 properties, 25 landlords a day, by the end of the week, you'll have somebody on the phone, or the end of 2 weeks, you'll have somebody on the phone, and you'll be talking about doing this deal. Now, once you speak to the buyer, speak to the seller, find out they're motivated, you get an option agreement with them or a slot deal agreement with them, one or the other, and they're committed to you doing work for them. Now you go do your due diligence on the house. Now you get pictures or you go look at the house or whatever. But you do that after you find a motivated seller, because otherwise you'll go look at a bunch of properties and not have motivated sellers, and you'll burn yourself out. How do I know that?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I just remind myself I'm not moving in.
Right.
I don't care. I'm not living there. I don't care. As long as somebody will live there, fine.
That used to work, Peter. Not anymore.
What do you mean?
You can't do that. That doesn't work anymore.
What?
You have to tell yourself, I'm testing, not investing. Just along the same line what you're saying. I don't want to make you wrong.
Yeah.
The buyer makes that decision, not me.
Exactly.
I'm going to get an option agreement. I'm going to put it back on the market, and I'm going to see what everybody says. And what you're looking for is that honey, like a bear to
honey pot.
Honey pot. That's what I'm thinking of. You're looking like a bear to a beehive. It's just.
I like when you say like a popular house, because sometimes you look at something and go, oh crap, that thing needs to be torn down. I don't even want to start. Other than that, it doesn't matter.
And all you're looking for is exactly right. Is that popular house, that one house that everybody wants, and they're willing to fight over it. And you're sending out messages like, I have 3 offers. Send out your highest and your best, and you get a slamming deal. And if the deal falls apart, you got 2 or 3 people to go to if it falls apart, right? So now you're one idea away from experiencing an income explosion and a revolution in your life. I've given you a few ideas, but this whole concept doesn't need a lot. But maybe, excuse me, maybe you're concerned about your experience or ability to do this. Maybe you think you need training. Hockey puck on that. I encourage you to look back in your life and realize you've rented from a landlord before, somewhere, someday, even if it's college days. and you're 100 years old. You rented from someone in the past. You know what it's like to have a landlord. You know what it's like to call somebody up and say, I want to look at your place, right? So you have 90% of the experience already. It's already there.
Mm-hmm.
The other 10% is, will you rent to me for a year or two and then sell to me? And then use the lease and option agreement. That's where you make the money. So you already know how to deal with the landlord. You already know how to deal with probably tenants because you were a tenant.
Mm.
You already have that concept enough to get started. You'll learn more once you start getting buyers. You'll learn more once you start doing these deals. But for now, you could start. You don't need to go study for 10 years to figure out how to talk to a seller. No, it's a landlord. You've talked to landlords before. You know how to do it. And so what if you screw it up? Because the landlord knows that all tenants are going to screw it up. Right? They've been told so many stories. They could be authors, right? Now, next thing that I want to cover before we leave, and then we're going to end off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on my last page of notes. What about this, Peter? You ready?
Yes.
But Bill, what about the paperwork? Oh, I don't have the paperwork. How am I going to do this? I don't have the paperwork. Oh. I get so sick and tired of hearing that. So,
Okay.
here you could do one of two things. Either go onto Google and say lease option agreement in the name of your city and your state. I promise you, if you do that enough times, like I have, you're going to find a website called eforms.com.
Ah.
eforms.com, you'll pay your $2 or $5 or $3. They'll let you do it for free, but then when you go to download it, they're going to charge you. You pay your couple bucks and you get it.
Yeah.
And then if you're still nervous about it, because you should be, because you just made a legal document and you're not a lawyer, go on to LegalShield.com, and there's others. I get no commission, otherwise I would give you my affiliate link. I don't get any commission. It's just who I have. I pay the $99 a month for my for both my businesses, or three of my businesses. I pay $99 a month just to have them. You could pay as an individual $25 a month.
Ah.
Go to LegalShield.com, sign up for $25 a month, and when you get your lease document, your lease, a lease to own, so you're going to get a lease and an option agreement. They should be two documents, not one. Right? Lease is one, the option is other, and they should be connected by verbiage. Like, if you default one, you should default the other. Right? Mm-hmm. Take that document and give it to the lawyer that you paid $25 a month for, and have them tell you if that's legal in your backyard or in your farm market. Mm-hmm. And if it's not, tell them to adjust it and have them do it, which they will do for $25. It's part of their services.
Nice.
I'm going to tell you this, just as a disclaimer. You could do that for a couple of deals.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you all the time on this podcast that we sell to a buyer and we assign them the landlord obligations. Those e-forms are not going to do that as good as our forms. Mm-hmm. Okay, it'll get you a deal or two and get some money in your pocket, and then once you get some money in your pocket, you'll need to buy. You're not going to get sued. You're not going to have a problem. You're not going to have any of that stuff. But our forms are very tight. Our leases are so tight. There's pages, 2 or 3 pages that talk about the responsibility of the person buying the house, the lessor.
Yep.
Not the lease, not the leasee. That's who it is. Not the lessor, the leasee, the person leasing the house. There are boxes that they sign saying that they understand this. I've been to court with these documents. They work. So I'm not telling you to buy my forms, buy somebody's forms. I don't care who they are, but you could do e-forms and get a couple deals done and get $2, $3, $5,000 and test it out and see if it works and get going. But as soon as you make your first buck, you should get the right forms. Okay? Sure.
Makes sense.
You could do enough of these deals that you could actually fire your boss. Now you're not going to have passive income. You're not going to not be able to work. But like I said, you could probably work 40 hours a month instead of 40 hours a week doing this once you get going. Right? So I set up a link if you want to get a demo to see how we can do all the paperwork for you and do all that stuff for very little bit of money. I think right now, basically what happens is if you buy leads from us, and I think the leads are as low as 16 cents a lead, we let you use our software for free to do all this stuff. We have so much stuff in there. We have so many. We give you leads. The first package gives you 6,000 leads. Okay, for like $1,000 for 3 months, right? Which is lower than 16 cents a lead, right?
Mm-hmm.
The point is that we can automate this whole thing for you and do it, or you can do the manual process like I just showed you. If you go to 5figurepaycheck.com, 5figurepaycheck.com, you can set up a demo, a 45-minute demo that's completely free. It's not a sales pitch, it's not any of that, and show you how we can do this, automate it for you for not a lot of money. Okay, that's 5figurepaycheck.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll have one of my team, sometimes it's me, give you a free demo on how myself and many others, hundreds of people, do this every single day. This demo's worth $500. It's got a value of $500 because we're going to show you, we're going to actually literally pull the curtain back and show you how we run our business, how I run my business. You and I run our business together,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we do, I have properties in Connecticut, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. And how I did it, and how I manage it, and how I have most of it done, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to buy anything. It's not a sales pitch. It's not any. I mean, if you want it, then yes. It's just to show you how to do it because most people think it's mysterious, and it's not. It's mechanical. It's mechanical. What's mysterious is you have lack of data or false data. That's what's mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
So just go to 5figurepaycheck.com, and you can get the free demo there. Okay, so hopefully that helped you. I think I've delivered on my promise that one good idea can change your life. I think I've given you enough hope that you would actually try this because it doesn't take much. You should not sign up for anything and just listen to this podcast over and over again and take notes and just go do what I said. Copy and paste that message in Facebook Marketplace that says, would you be willing to rent for a year or two? And then sell to me. And then get somebody on the phone and you'll find out it's easier, so much easier than you think, and you don't need decades worth of training. All right, Peter, I think we're done. Any last words from you?
Yes and no. Nothing that would add anything. So just run with it because that was good. I mean, the only thing I should say is I do it. I get on our system. I do it. I push buttons. I get memorandums and I push the buttons and I got them just like this. See that? That's a deal.
I'll print it out.
Right there. I push the button. Bang. Done.
So Peter's
and I can do that.
Peter's holding up one of our offers. He's holding up. It's a 2-page offer that we generate in the system automatically. So,
bang. And I send it. Email. Boom.
Not as a disdain point or putting him down or anything like that. Peter's 75 years old.
And if I can do it
on a computer, okay, it's 75 years old. So
yeah,
we designed the system for me that's 61 that is not tech savvy, and Peter who at the time was worse than I was. He's actually
didn't grow up with it. I had to learn it from scratch as a grown up. Like go back, but I'm doing it.
It is possible. Anyways, we're turning this to a sales fest. I don't want to do that. This is the end of podcast number 455. Please subscribe to us or like us wherever you're watching or listening to us. Please leave us a review. If you leave a 5-star review, take a picture of it, send it to flippinghousesforrookies.com. flippinghousesforrookies@gmail.com. You could also go to flippinghousesforrookies.com and put in a support ticket, but I don't check those as much as I used to. So either way is fine. But just send a picture of the flippinghousesforrookies@gmail.com or just flippinghousesforrookies.com. And put send me a picture of the 5-star review, and I will send you compensation for things you can't even imagine. I've done it, and people are like, they're blown away when I send the email back. They're like, I can't believe you did that. So thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. And tell somebody else about the podcast. Send somebody here so they can listen too, and you can help them learn. Okay? Over and out. Flourish and prosper. We will meet you up next week at podcast number 456. Have a good week.
This has been Flipping Houses for Rookies. The American Dream. What is it? It's called financial freedom, and with real estate, you'll have it. Without the banks, without the bigwigs, and without the realtors' nonsense. Bill and Pete are two real estate investors with 30 years plus of experience, hundreds of deals under their belts, and a mission to change the way you think about creative real estate. Do be sure to like, rate, and review the show. And after that, hit up our YouTube channel at Flipping Houses for Rookies /streams. We'll be back soon, and see you then on Flipping Houses for Rookies.